When Japanese artist Yayoi Kusama first moved to New York City, she stood at the top of the Empire State Building and made a promise to herself. She would become world famous for her paintings, her sculptures, and her extraordinary creative energy. She was thousands of miles away from home, and she finally felt free. Yayoi was born in Matsumoto, a city in Japan surrounded by mountains and nature. Her parents owned a seed nursery which grew flowers to sell across the country. Yayoi would sit in the flower beds with her sketchbook and get lost in her imagination. She knew, even when she was very young, that she wanted to be an artist. But her parents were against the idea. At the time, most artists in Japan were men. Yayoi's mum wanted Yayoi to become a housewife. They got into terrible fights, but Yayoi was rebellious and unstoppable. When her mum snatched away her canvases, she used old sacks instead. One day, Yayoi was sitting in the flower beds when all the flowers seemed to come to life. Their heads were like dots that went on as far as she could see. She felt as if she was being obliterated or breaking into little pieces and disappearing into a field of endless dots. After Yayoi got home, she sketched lots and lots of the never-ending fields of flowers and what she'd seen in the field. Drawing helped her to feel calmer and more in control. She could break herself into dots or self-obliterate and become one with her surroundings. She also used dots to connect with other people, like in this drawing of her mum. A few years later, Yayoi saw the work of a famous and much older artist called Georgia O'Keeffe, who lived across the world in America. She decided to send Georgia a letter and some watercolor paintings she'd made. To her surprise, Georgia replied and even said she showed the watercolors to her art dealer. The letter was the start of a new adventure. Yayoi would later write, "If Georgia had not answered my letter, I'm not sure I would ever have made it to America. It was because of her that I was able to go to the USA and begin my artist career in earnest." When Yayoi was 27 years old, she packed 2,000 drawings into her suitcase and got on a plane. Away from her parents, she could paint from morning to night. She worked on giant canvases and became known for putting dots on walls, on clothes, on people, even on a horse. Yayoi found lots of fans who wanted her to paint dots on their bodies so they could become a part of her artworks. She finally met Georgia O'Keeffe in person and made friends with other famous American artists, including Andy Warhol, Joseph Cornell, and Donald Judd. But like in Japan, most of the artists in New York were men. Yayoi had to work extra hard to stand out, and sometimes this would leave her feeling exhausted and anxious. But making art was a safe space for her, where she could feel at peace. Now in her 90s, Yayoi is famous around the world for her work, just like she promised herself that day at the Empire State Building. She sees herself as a single dot, and everyone in the world is a dot, connected to another dot. Our Earth is like one little polka dot among millions of other celestial bodies, she once wrote. Let's forget ourselves and become one with the universe. When do you feel most connected with the world? And what would that look like in a drawing?